It is Monday night once again, and we are live in the Madhouse Studios. Tommy Marr, the Maverick Soul Hour, and we have a very special show tonight, something very different than our usual shows, but I am sure it is going to be groundbreaking for sure. And but as usual, I will talk about the week, so let me do so. Number one, I want to wish my grandson Thomas, who I love dearly, happy 16th birthday. My beautiful, beautiful grandson, first grandson, Thomas, happy birthday. I love you. Number two, I would love to thank the band that we had in last week, who I love, and they know I love them. Milagro, with Julio and the boys, the Santana Tribute Band, they blew this studio apart. They are an amazing band, and I'm telling you, anybody who wants to book some band, I mean, first of all, they should be in every casino. They are a phenomenal band, and I urge anybody that hasn't seen these guys, go see them. I was at Woodstock, and trust me, I closed my eyes here last Monday night. I was there again. So, guys, thank you so much. You were unbelievable, and I hope to have you back again soon. Number three, I would like to talk about Joplin's Pearl, Mrs. Amber Ferrari, who, in my opinion, is one of the greatest singers in the country. And she has a show, which you all know. She has a show called Joplin's Pearl. But she also, the show that she does, the first half of the show, she does all the rock icons, Joan Jett, Hart, Melissa Etheridge, Stevie Nicks, Grace Slick, everybody, Cher, you name it. And she does them as well as they do. Killer, killer, killer performer, leaves every ounce of energy, strength, sweat, blood, tears on the stage. She will give you everything you got. She is going to be at the Patchogue Theater on October 5th. And I'm telling you, if you want to see a show of shows, make sure you see that show. She will blow you away, and my phone is ringing if you hear Sam Cooke singing in the background. She will blow you away, and she is going to just be phenomenal. And she's got some very, very great stars going to be on the show. She's got Richie Canada from the Billy Joel Band going to be playing with them. She has, and Amber, if you know her, she has a few tricks up her sleeve. Actually, I'm going to do a song with her. And she's going to have a lot of surprises, but I do recommend that you get tickets early because last year she sold out that whole theater like that. So I recommend it. Patchogue Theater, October 5th. And this is the big news now. Amber and her band, Joplin's Pearl, is going to be coming up to Yasgur's Farm with me, and we're going to be playing on Saturday night at, I believe, 8:45 at Yasgur's. And and those people are going to be in for such a treat to see this girl perform. They're going to be blown away. I can't wait to bring her up there and show her off to that whole world of Woodstock because she is the real deal. Miss Amber Ferrari / Janis Joplin. Incredible, incredible performer. I also want to just throw in a couple good words about other shows that we do have here. We have some great shows. I love the show with Dr. Janine Burns. She has a show on Thursday night early, I think at 6 o'clock. Spirituality Rocks. I mean, I usually work the cameras for that show, and I really get into it. She is a very, very professional, well-thought woman that really talks about spirituality, that really touches your soul. And I tell you, and there's a lot of other great shows here. Check out, it's just not this show. There's a lot of shows. Check them out. And I also want to thank Mr. Evan Ginsberg, who he had a show on here last 2 Saturdays, and he had a red carpet event on Saturday night, which we went to. It was at Red 58 on 58th Street in Manhattan, and it was incredible. But the performers that he had Oliver Shawn that flew in from Europe just for the show that we did here Saturday. And then he performed also Saturday night at Red 58. And he also had the Edwin Vasquez Band in there. And I'm telling you, these guys are just amazing. So if you ever get a chance. But Evan, Ginsburg. It was a beautiful night. We all from Madhouse, thank you. You treated us like family, and, well, we do consider you guys family. So we thank you. It was a great night. It was a fun night, great entertainment. We met some great people there. Everything was very cool. Thank you, Evan, and looking forward to doing the next show with you. So it was really, really good. And Oliver, you are going to be a rock superstar. And I think also, Edwin, you'll be right there with him too, brother. So that's that. What else do we got? Oh, one other thing I want to just tell everybody. My man, Andre LaSalle, he's going to be playing with Premonition at the Cutting Room at 44 East 32nd Street, New York City, on Wednesday, this Wednesday, 2 more days, July 31st. Incredible guitar player. He's been in the studio a couple times. I've had him on the show a couple times. So if you know Andre, he's a world-class guitar player, unbelievable, and he will blow you away. So if you get a chance, get down to the Cutting Room and check out him and his band. So that's just about it. And we're going to have a new show. Tom and I are going to be doing a show called Crossfire. God only knows where that one's going to go, but I guarantee you're going to have some laughs and you're going to be entertained and you're going to learn some crazy things. So wait for that one. So when we come back from the commercial, I'm going to introduce you to my guest tonight, and we're going to get into our form. And get ready for this one, folks, because this one you've never seen before. So hang in there. You got the Maverick Soul. Stay tight. We'll be right back. Hang in there.
Hey, I'm Tom Mealy from the Harrison Law Group. You know, soft tissue injury, that's no joke. This is what we do. We're not new at this game. Don't waste valuable time going to firms who don't get it and can't do it. Call 1-800-INJURY-LAW.
Huntington Toyota, the experience of a lifetime. Don't take our word for it.
The experience for me at Huntington Toyota made me feel very comfortable.
It's their professionalism, their honesty, and their integrity. I've bought at least 9 or 10 cars here at Huntington Toyota. They give me the best price around.
It never was about high pressure. It never was about them. It was always about us.
Today's cars are very similar, but Huntington Toyota is very different.
Huntington Toyota, where it's all about you.
Eva, one of our 4 million owners, has her cat insured with Folksam. This one is for you.
I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. I see me running through that open door.
Visit folksam.se and tell us what makes your heart beat faster.
Dad, where do babies come from?
Well, there's that big, shiny rocket ship. That's right, it's filled with babies of all kinds. And when the shiny rocket ship penetrates, Mommy and Dad goes, and when the time is just right, there's a space launch.
All systems go.
Babies of all kinds, released all over the place. Yeah, Africa. Mommy's Babylandia. That's right, it's filled with babies. After an amazing 9 months, babies. And that, son, is where babies come from.
But Jake said babies come from
Planet Babylandia.
You go, play with us on the bus.
Wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round.
on the bus go round and round all through the town.
I'm back, and so's Tom. We are back with the Maverick Soul right here in the Madhouse. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to my guest tonight. We have a very special guest in. I've known her for years, and her husband, Roy Howard. This is Jeryl Abramson. And Jeryl owns Yasgur's Farm. So tonight, we are here, and we're going to answer some questions that people, there's been so much talk over the years and so much, you know, you ever play that game when you were a kid, telephone, and you tell the first kid, and then by the time it gets to the end of the room, the story's completely different. So with all the talk and all the things that have gone on up in Bethel, which I have witnessed firsthand over the many years, I welcome you, Jeryl.
Thank
and
you.
I'm very pleased that you're here.
My pleasure.
I know, well, first of all of us extend our deepest grief to you, because we all know what a wonderful, wonderful human being Roy Howard was, not just to his family, but to the world. I mean, this man, I could never say enough about the guy. I loved him. I truly loved him. He never really, he only cared about doing the right thing. And Jeryl and the fight that the two of them had for 17 years over the most silly, stupid things that we all kind of take for granted. It's time that maybe we all find out that maybe you shouldn't be taking your rights for granted. But I would like to put up a little poster, if Janine, if that's possible. Okay. There is going to be a reunion. It is going to happen, and it's going to be legit for the first time. And if you're looking at I guess you are, the poster is up there. It's going to be the 44th Woodstock reunion in memory of Roy Howard. And it will be on August 16th, 17th, and 18th on the farm. There will be, I don't know, how many bands are there?
A little over 50.
Over 50 bands will be there for 3 days.
Including yours.
Including mine. With Joplin's Pearl will be there. And I'm telling you, you're going to absolutely.
I can't wait.
You're going to be amazed by this lady and her band. The entire band is beyond talented. But I guess we, you know, I have a piece of paper here that can you shoot in? Well, what it says here, why did it take so long? So, Jeryl, that will be my first question to you.
Why did it take so long?
Why did it take so long?
You know, that's a scary question, and that was in the local newspaper, the Sullivan County Democrat. And they wrote that article, it was the editorial, about what happened. You know, everybody wants to know what happened. Right. It's been 44 years since the original 1969. It's been 17 years that Roy and I have been fighting for our rights, which we lost. We lost our civil rights in 1997. I was enjoined from mentioning anything on the internet about Woodstock. I was basically put out of communication with everyone for 17 years. And with your invitation to come here, I think this is the perfect venue for coming out, so to speak.
Yep.
To go back to the history of Bethel. Bethel was a farming community. It's a very rural area. Sullivan County is very rural. There were Jewish farmers in the upstate New York area who, around the turn of the century, last century, when they, you know, times were changing, times were rough, a lot of the Jewish immigrants wanted to come up to the Catskills. Right. And so they came up and they started renting rooms. And one thing led to another. It became a hotel industry. And at one time, there were over 500 hotels in Sullivan County. And nobody could count the bungalow colonies. They were just all over the place.
You still can't.
You still can't. But the tourist industry started to diminish. And at the same time, so did the farming industry.
Right.
And they just got more, it became more bleak. You know, when the economics of the country turned, when you go into the rural communities, you find that it really impacts them tremendously. And you take this mentality of, we like it, not in our backyard, we don't, you know, we like our rural lifestyle, we don't want the summer people, this influx of people coming in, which, you know, the hotel guests and the bungalow colonies would just descend. And you would go from 75,000 people to pretty much 200,000 or more in the course of 2 months. So it became crowded, it became pushy, it became whatever. And the mentality of Sullivan County for years has been, we don't want tourism. Right. And yet they tout themselves as a tourist community. So it's really been a conflict of the mentality. What do you really want and how do you want to define yourselves? In 1969, through a series of accidents, which, you know, I don't have time on this show to go into all of it, but 4 young men came together, being John Roberts, Joel Rosenman. Those two knew each other from their Ivy League education. Michael Lang was somebody who had successfully done a festival in Miami the year before, and Artie Kornfeld, quite the character to this day. He was the VP of Columbia Records at the time, and he was a prominent songwriter and producer. And these 4 people came together, and they were actually aiming to put a recording studio together, because Michael had moved up to Saugerties, which was right next to Woodstock, and you had Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix and Bob Dylan and the band and John Sebastian and Levon. I mean, all of them were living there.
And so still do.
A lot of them still do. So the idea was to build a recording studio. Well, John Roberts had the money, and his idea was, let's do a festival, and that will finance the recording studio.
See, that's what a lot of people, you know, they don't know that. I mean, and even people that do go up and go to the festivals and everything, they don't realize that, you know, it wasn't supposed to happen like it was. It was supposed to be a money-making thing to build a studio. You know,
yes.
It became a gathering. So it,
well,
you know, it was not intended to be peace, love, and all that. I mean, it was.
It was intended to be. Well, it was intended to be.
Right?
It was supposed to be 40 to 50,000 at an Aquarian festival that was supposed to take place first in Woodstock. Right. They pulled their permit. You know, the farmer, I think his name was Fred Schaller, from the Winston farm in Saugerties. He said no. That, you know, he heard what was going to happen, and he was like, no, I don't think so.
Right.
So they moved it to Walk Hill, to Howard Mills property. And they had a contract and everything, and the town of Walk Hill found out what was, you know, there were going to be hippies coming. They changed every law. They made it absolutely impossible for a dog to bark. Therefore, it was going to be a disaster to try and argue with these people, so they pulled that out. And then Elliot Tiber, a dear friend of ours, he suggests, you know, he found out about this, and he said, well, we have a motel. And the funny thing was, Elliot had a permit because Elliot was the president of the Chamber of Commerce at the time, and then he appointed himself to be like the chair of the arts, so whatever. So he basically issued himself this permit for like years, and nobody said anything, and he stamped it and he had it.
Well, it was kind of like the movie, right? I mean,
yeah, but you know, the point was you didn't even need a permit back then.
Right.
So he just did it. Well, when Michael Lang needed a permit, Elliot offered his, but Elliot didn't have the property.
Right.
So that's how they brought them over to the farm that I own now, that Roy purchased in '85 from Mrs. Yasker. And in that kitchen, that deal was consummated. And it was not supposed to be what it was. It was supposed to be much smaller, much more. But one of the things that happened was that the more the town said, we don't want you there, the more people were coming.
Right.
The problem Bethel had was, unlike Walk Hill and Saugerties, they didn't have the time to rescind the permit.
Right.
That didn't happen until after the festival.
And they also tortured Max, too, right?
They put Max out of business.
Right.
In fact, I have a letter that Max wrote to the Sullivan County Democrat, a letter to the editor, and basically he was devastated by all of this.
You want to?
Yeah, I'd like to read Max's letter because...
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to get a first time.
I have to wear
I'm
my
sure
little
you've never
cheaters.
heard this before.
You haven't heard this before. This is a very... I wrote a book about the experience that I've had there. There are very few examples of Max Yasgur in his own words. And this is one of them, and it's a poignant letter, and I'll read it to you.
Yeah.
On August 21st, 1969, Max wrote this letter. It was published in the Sullivan County Democrat regarding the Aquarian Festival. 3 weeks ago, the citizens of Walk Hill, New York, banished from their community a group of young people seeking 3 days of music and peace. In desperation, looking for a site on which to hold their festival, Woodstock Ventures came to Bethel. For 2 weeks, it rained daily while the young people toiled around the clock in an almost impossible effort to turn hayfields into a festival site. A playground was constructed for children, complete with animals. Miles of chain-link fence was erected. A magnificent stage was built. 5 wells were drilled. Electric service was brought in from 5 miles away. Thousands of portable toilets were positioned, and generally every effort possible was made to handle a maximum expected turnout of 50,000 people per day. The young people who built Aquarian began allaying the fears of the local people with whom they had contact. They were industrious, polite, and policed up after themselves. On the eve of the festival, however, adults and nature combined to form a severe test of pressure and problems for the Aquarian Festival. New York City Police Commissioner Howard Leary prevented an estimated 350 off-duty police officers from serving as security officers, as they had originally been hired to do. 100 buses, which had been scheduled to shuttle in festival patrons free of charge from outlying parking lots, were suddenly unavailable. Then finally the rains came. So did the young people. 8 or 10 times as many people came as had ever been anticipated. Under the severe strain of almost 500,000 people, the facilities broke down. Parking in the rain-soaked fields became impossible. Traffic with an understage security force became an impossible snarl. The wells, overtaxed, were hardly able to keep up with the demand, and the sanitation facilities became inaccessible to maintenance. By the early morning hours of Saturday, I feared that major catastrophe was in the making. I tried to imagine what a population larger than Albany, and perhaps as large as Buffalo, might do in a situation in which they were wet, thirsty, tired, and immobile, and facing nothing but more of the same. The prospects were horrifying. Some had come over 3,000 miles and had paid $18 for tickets, only to find they had to walk the last 5 miles in the rain to reach an overfilled festival site where no tickets were being collected because the management feared someone might be hurt in the crush to the gate. What would you envision that a group of 500,000 professional football or other sports fans might do under similar circumstances? But, thank heaven, none of our fears were realized. What happened at Bethel this past weekend was that these young people, together with our local residents, turned the Aquarian Festival into a dramatic victory for the spirit of peace, goodwill, and human kindness. Hungry youth shared everything they had. Local residents poured out to volunteer food and aid. Well-meaning youths looking for a place to rest and something to eat strayed onto private property, built fires out of fences, and slept in fields. My neighbors were magnificent. They had nothing to gain from the festival. They were not receiving rent or selling anything. They were merely trying to run their dairy farms and homes. They woke to find thousands of young people camping on their lawns and fields. Yet, through it all, there was not one incident as my neighbors, for whom my heart goes out more than they can know, rose to the occasion. The state police, Sheriff Ratner and his overworked force, local police and volunteers from surrounding communities justly received the highest possible praise from festival-goers, staff, and local residents. Together they organized emergency traffic and medical procedures that finally succeeded in bringing order out of the traffic and relief to an inundated first aid facilities. With the aid of armed forces, helicopters, and local volunteers, a potential medical crisis was averted. They deserve the highest possible commendation, each and every one, for the tireless and magnificent way in which they handled the situation. I am, of course, exceedingly sorry for my many neighbors and friends who suffered damage. The fault, if there be one, lies simply in the fact that 10 times as many youths came to the festival as had been anticipated, and of course, the rain then made a bad situation terrible. But damage is repairable by money and effort. In the final analysis, however, the material aspects of Aquarian, such as a local loss of revenue at the track and the monumental inconvenience to local residents, are far less important than the lessons that were to be learned. It seems evident to me that if 500,000 young people came to Sullivan County, there must be 15 to 20 million of them in America. It has been stated that 80% were on some form of narcotics. Although this is merely a guess and not a proven fact, if it is so, the problem is more urgent than any of us realized. This is very prophetic. The militant groups and the communist organizers were here, and nothing would have proved their point more than a riot. But they couldn't get a riot started no matter how hard they tried because, as the young people said, this was a cool scene with no reason for violence. I, for one, have learned a lesson that I will not forget. I realize that as an American, we are talking about most of our generation of young people, many of whom are the young intelligentsia of our society. Many of them are attending college. Many have graduate degrees, and the one thing that they have in common is that they are all thinkers. Possibly some are impractical dreamers, but all are thinkers and deeply concerned about their future. I, as an American, am also concerned about the future of America and the form of government I love. These young people, whom my age group refers to as the Beat Generation, are the voters and the lawmakers of tomorrow. If they are a Beat Generation, then we, the so-called establishment, their parents, made them so. Our generation will have to decide, and decide quickly, whether we are going to give these young people a fair shake or are going to discount them because they don't cut their hair or wear their clothes the way we do. If we don't listen to their gripes, the radical and extremist will, and then we can and will, have continued anarchy and violence in America. It has been stated, and undoubtedly greatly overstated, that 80% of the festival visitors were on some form of narcotics. If these figures are even partly true, it is clear that the basic problem is the climate in our country, which makes for such facts possible. Whether or not those who are now using drugs can be helped is primarily a medical problem. But the problem of preventing further drug use is the problem that my generation must face. If we want our young people to be free of the horrible effects of drug addiction, then we must provide for them a climate in which they can grow without being forced to drugs to avoid our society. It was proven in Bethel that these young people don't want to follow all the radical groups that are pressuring them. In Bethel, in spite of terrible adversity, 500,000 people remain peaceful, and I believe that they and the millions of others like them would like to become part of a peaceful society with us. But if we don't welcome them, if we don't give them a fair shake, if we don't listen to their complaints and try to reason out the solution with them, then what choice will they have? The radical groups will listen to their complaints, and they will make efforts for them. If we close the doors into our society, they will only be left with choosing the radicals. As the late Robert F. Kennedy realized, it is with these young people that we share this nation, and with them that our form of government must be run. But if we exclude them, it will be our blame for having forced them to the anarchy of the radicals. If 500,000 young people at the Aquarian Festival could turn such adverse conditions filled with the possibility of disaster, riot, looting, and catastrophe into 3 days of music and peace, then perhaps there is hope that if we join them, then we can turn those adversities into the problems of America today and hope for a brighter and more peaceful future. Max Yasgur.
Well, let me tell you something. Now, to me, that letter should be in every history book for kids in school to just, not even kids, every adult should have to read that.
Here's the thing with it. If you take the radicals and communists out of the text, and you substitute it for drug dealers and gang members, this is the most prophetic thing I have ever read.
I agree. And as you all know, and you've heard me week after week after week, and you know I have the Woodstock Guru page, which I have dedicated since his death to Roy Howard, because I do feel that from the moment when Max was out and Roy was in, that he became that person. He was the one that carried that on. I truly believe that. And I do believe that his morality was so strong. And some people in Bethel, which you know, we've sat on your porch 1,000 times and had this conversation for hours and hours and hours, and we never really could ever understand it. Nor will I ever understand what they're thinking, what's going through their head. I mean, you're sitting on a gold mine, and no one wants to use it.
Roy used to say if the Grand Canyon was in Sullivan County, they'd use it for a landfill.
You're right. He told me that.
But here's the thing. After this letter was written, in January of the following year, 1970, Max was sued and boycotted and harassed right out of there.
Like you guys.
It was horrible.
But this is what this
Roy
became him. Roy Howard and you became him. And if you look at the history of it, even when they did try to redo it, look what happened with whatever's gone on in this world, that they burnt the place down, they the big money came in, they charged $10 for water, whatever it was. What I loved about Roy was how he just wanted, and you, to be simple, to just gather and be at peace with one another, where people get along, and like Max said, with nothing but peace and music. I mean, there was nothing more than that. I mean, I was there, I witnessed it, I seen it, I felt it, and that's why it will stay with me forever.
It's very frustrating, but it's a mindset, and it's hard to understand this because the people in Bethel have been shooting themselves in their own feet economically over this, and the problem is that they took on the mentality of Woodstock was an embarrassment for the community. They did not see it as a gathering of a spirituality. They saw it as a drug rave.
But
and you can look at anything in either direction like that. You can make you can turn gold into shit.
Right.
It depends on your perspective.
But the thing that with me is that it's still 1969. This is 44 years later. And the same mentality.
No, not entirely the same mentality. There was when you take people who do not think for themselves, and they think according to the way the majority has told them to think.
Right.
Okay? And then you put government officials in who are leading the sheep. And then you have to wonder, let me explain one thing about the permit for Woodstock that I found out after 17 years. It's worth a lot of money. And the person who issues that permit has control. And if you don't think that that is dangerous, and if you don't think that a town board and a town supervisor, wherever it is, because this particular thing has to do with Woodstock, and so it's something that is a focus. But talk to anybody who's trying to get a permit to do anything in this country.
But the thing in Bethel with me, now, you know I've been going there for years and years and years. I've been to your place 1,000 times. We've sat and talked. I've talked to Roy. I used to take my walk every day, and we would talk on the phone for an hour, twice a week. I mean, I've heard it. And being, I mean, you guys lived it, but me going up there year after year after year and time after time, and you know, I'm not just a summer guy. You know I come up all the time.
We see you all the time.
All the time. And the thing that Janine and I would drive by and just go, that could be that could be that.
Roy used to do that all the time. Roy used to go to places, wherever we traveled, he'd say, that would be great in Sullivan County. That should be in Monticello. He was such a patriot to Sullivan County,
that's what I mean.
and they beat him up for it. Because, as they said when we were applying for the permit, they were searching for the right person, and evidently it was not us. They were actually...
Because they wanted a commercial person.
The town supervisor became the agent for the development of Woodstock. Therefore, he was the person who was going to decide who got this permit. It did not go by, oh, you have to comply with these codes.
Right.
That went on for years. For example, in 2004, when they gave us the permit finally, I mean, that went down to the wire, and we don't have time on this show to go through all of this, but of course in '97 they enjoined us from ever doing anything again, which what they enjoined us from was ever doing anything without a permit, including speaking about Woodstock. I was enjoined from speaking about, this is actually my first opportunity, and I'm here with you tonight speaking publicly. It's the first shot out of the closet.
We're very proud. And
but in 2004, the town tricked us. They gave us a permit.
That's what I was just going to say. There's always a little hook
in there. This time they said, okay, you can have all the music you want, you can do whatever you want, but no camping. So everyone has to leave at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they can come back at 6 a.m. Yeah. We had to shut down, move every car out of our parking lot, shut everything down, move every car out, move them back in 2 hours later, repark all the cars, and then we couldn't do it. Nobody left. So what happened? Afterwards, they held a lawsuit over our heads all weekend long saying, you comply or we're going to court on Monday. But wait a minute. Wait, let me just finish this thought, okay? Either you make sure people get off your property for those 2 hours or we go to court on Monday. Well, Monday came and went, we never went to court. So we figured, okay, they left us alone. They realized how ridiculous this was. They even admitted when they gave us the permit with these restrictions that it's not anything that anybody can comply with, nor is it rational to move everyone for 2 hours. But that's what they wanted. So we figured, okay, they came to their senses, they left us alone. The next season we went to renew the permit. Nope, you were out of compliance last year, you're not getting the permit, and that was that.
Well, but I got to just think about this, guys. Now they got people there, they're just there to have fun and with music and socialize. There was never a problem, never anything. Now the town is basically telling everyone, whether the outside world was listening, but my ears was listening, that we're going to endanger every life that's here.
Oh, absolutely.
Without question. They made a decision that we are going to endanger every single life here. First of all, they have nowhere to go. They know they have nowhere to go. They knew that. There's no facilities.
That was the problem when they had Fish.
Right, I know.
They had the band Fish come up for a 3-day weekend. They knew they had a 3-day weekend coming up. They invited to Bethel Woods, which is on the original site now. They were fully aware that they invited 20,000 people per day and that there was no accommodation.
I know.
It was in the newspapers. They had 4,000 sleeping accommodations between the camping and the rooms, according to the Visitors Association. They were sending people to Bear Mountain camping. They were sending people to Pennsylvania camping, which we don't get the sales tax for that. So they tricked us again. We were in Arizona in our winter home, and we got a call one day that they're issuing the permits, which we had been looking to get for years. And now the town supervisor came out and said, oh, he found this obscure code that was in there that nobody ever knew about. And it says you can camp, you can have temporary camping, but we're going to make it safe. We're going to do it no more than 5 tents per parcel, not per acre, not per any particular, per parcel. I have one parcel that's 5 acres. I have one parcel that's 71 acres. 5 tents per parcel. And they invited 20,000. And now they're hoping that, the people in the community will take in stray puppies.
Right.
20,000 people.
So
we opened up. And we said, okay, within minutes, the fish fans were and they were the nicest people. Well, everybody was like, oh, Yasgur's is open again. We can't wait. And the bands were coming in, and the booking was going. The people were great. And the town was like, oh, this is fantastic. These people do a great job. The people have no place else to go. But for all their efforts, we're going to take Roy and Jeryl to court and sue the crap out of them. Yeah. And they did that spitefully. Not only that, but anyone that was parked on the road near our property, they towed them in the middle of the night. When they waited for the kids to go to fish, to the concert. They towed all their cars. One poor kid had his medication in there.
They followed us for 5 miles when we left.
The harassment was horrible.
I know. It was
horrible. And they went into the paper. The town was in the paper calling us. They called Roy a retard.
I know.
They said that they weren't going to let bygones be bygones, meaning the old thing. They weren't going to let anything pass.
I think that really pissed Roy off, that statement, because he called me.
All of it was that, we don't want to shut them down because the people have no place to go, but we're going to find them afterwards. Right. So we said, okay, that's it. We've had enough. Yeah. And we shut down, and then it was a disaster. Yeah. Fish will never come back.
And who becomes the bad guy? You guys.
No.
No, but
no, actually, at that particular juncture, I think they went too far. I think they actually scared themselves with their own craziness. They jeopardized. They sent people away from our property.
I know.
We paid security, our own private security. We sent them home. The sheriff's department got $21,000 in overtime. People were sleeping in the Walmart parking lot. We had to return all the tickets, including the sales tax, and people went to Pennsylvania camping. We don't get Pennsylvania sales tax in New York. So they absolutely destroyed themselves. They felt, people were shocked. People were shocked.
I'm still shocked. I was there. I'm still shocked.
What that government did to them and to the economy for the umpteenth time this was going on. Well, by then, Roy was very sick, and nobody knew. And they hit us with, criminal misdemeanors for camping violations. The town code enforcement officer came up and served me with violations, and I said to her, there's absolutely nobody here. And she looked at me and said, oh, come on, Jeryl. And I said, no, seriously, look. And then everyone else who came up after that, there was nobody there. And we got served with criminal violations. We had to go to court. When Roy was on serious medication and treatment, it was was horrible.
I know. We talked a lot on the phone. I don't even know if you know, but we did talk a real lot. Like when I would walk, we would talk. And boy, I'll tell you,
he was brave to the end.
The man was an American folk hero without question. He should be in history books. What he's did. And you too. The both of you.
We are. We've been mentioned.
No, I know, but it should be in a positive way of like stand your ground, and when you're right, you're right. And that's one thing I will say. Roy Howard, I've heard people call him stubborn. I heard, you know what?
You've heard me call him stubborn.
Well, that was for other things, but that man never wavered. Was never going to let them beat him down. He was never going to be put in a corner.
It's true.
He stood his ground, but he did it with class. And I tell you, I could never even say enough about the guy. I mean, and you know, and of course you were along every inch of the way, but there was just something so great about him.
He was the front guy.
He was such a
He was my
great
front guy.
human being, and never could there be a word to describe better a man. He was a man's man.
Oh, yeah.
Hardworking man that worked every day. I know, even when I was there, and I've been there for a million times, he was up at 5, and that guy was doing something all day long.
All day long.
All day long, and would hang at night, too. I mean, you know.
And
so,
eventually fall asleep in the middle of a conversation, but you can't help that. But at the end of the day, the town woke up, and they said, yeah, you know, this is not really working in our benefit. Let's fix this.
Yeah, why don't we make some money, you know, God forbid. And
unfortunately, you know, when we went back, Roy and I decided to apply for the permit this particular year, and I was hoping so much that he would make it.
It breaks my heart. But
you know, he died January 29th. They gave me the permit April 6th, I think. I'm devastated. They took something that was the most precious thing in my life, outside of my family and my close friends, and they put a cloud over it that had he been through at least one permitted year, I would have been a little more settled. But to tell you the truth,
you know me,
my
and I talk
heart's
to him
broken.
every day, and I do talk to him every single day. I talk to him every single day on my walks, and he is going to be there. And we're going to go to a quick commercial. We're going to gather ourselves. We're going to go, and we're going to go back and talk about our human rights and our American rights in this country. So we'll be right back with the Maverick Soul right after this quick message.
I think this is a good time to tell you. You're doing okay, Mom. I can call you Mom, right? I know we haven't known each other very long, but you seem like a real keeper. You're not perfect. There was that strained carrots incident, but you're trying. You pick up my bottle every time I toss it out of my stroller. That's high comedy to an 8-month-old. You hum the Barber of Seville when you wash my hair. So cool. And your rub-downs are out of this world. Anyway, I want you to know how much I appreciate you. You know, right? How much I love you? You're doing okay, Mom.
陽介、乗ってみるか。おい待てよ、陽介。聞いてねえだろうかよ。なんでじゃねえよ。出てけ！
ただいま。
おかえり。いらっしゃい。
なお。
はじめまして。はじめまして。さあ、お父さんいつものところよ。
乗ってみる？
いい車だな。
ありがとう。あなたと車、どんな物語がありますか？
We are back, and I am still here with Jeryl, and we were talking in between the commercial here, and it's still, I mean, with all the years and all the time I've spent up there, and Jeryl can attest to me being there. We've been there, God, I don't even kidding, couldn't possibly tell you how many times. You know, the world needs to change. It does need to change. I mean, we were just talking, and you know, we got to stop being sheep and being shepherded by these bad shepherds, because either we start standing up or we're going to not even be able, I mean, it's getting where you can't walk out of your house now without getting shot in the head or something. So I don't know where we made the left turn or what, you know.
I think it started with what Max identified.
That's what we just said.
You know, that the world, it turned in the wrong direction. Yeah. And I think people are just, what we were just saying, people are just frustrated because they can't get ahead. No matter what you do, the government is right down your throat. What happened to Roy and I is happening everywhere. It happens to even, like, you know, the richest people.
Right.
If you try and do anything, there are no more mom and pop industries. There are no more small businesses. People cannot afford to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps anymore. Because the government will take it before you get it.
I agree.
And the local governments are even worse, because the home rule
they can hide better.
Home rule gives them unchecked power. They have complete power over millions of dollars of our money, and we cannot say anything.
Doesn't the blame really come down, though, to us?
No.
I mean that not enough of us say, hey, we're not going to stand
for
this crap.
I'll tell you something. In Bethel, as an example, there is a committee that nominates who's going to run.
Well, that's a scary place.
Okay. Well, those committees are in cahoots. Sometimes the Democrats and the Republicans are running the same candidate, and nobody can break into that clique.
Right.
It's a clique. The political system is a clique.
Always has been.
Always has been.
Always
and
has
those who, that's what they do for a living. Public service becomes something to do for a living for the rest of your life.
Here's something I tell everybody, and I really want to tell these young people. When you're voting, you know, when you got a guy that's a billionaire running for an office that pays $80,000 or $150,000,
makes you wonder.
Doesn't that immediately tell you something's wrong? Rather than a plumber or somebody that's lived in this world and struggled like we all did, we're electing people that have lived in a bubble, have 30-foot walls protecting them with security all over the place. They do what they want. They make their own rules. They make their own laws. And we're just the sheep that follows along. So, I mean, shame on us. Shame on us.
It's not really shame on us. We have no choice because, you know, I was reading something by Nathaniel Hawthorne recently, and he worked for government for a while, and he says there is no purpose to it. They are just there to collect money from other people's toil. You work, and you hand them over bags of your money, and they just sit there and take it. They are not performing, and they are just sucking more and more out of us. There is nothing left.
Right, but this is what I'm saying. Elect a plumber. Elect a guy that was like your next door neighbor that worked hard like you did all your life and knows what it's like to feed 4 kids and all that, rather than some guy that's a billionaire making decisions for you.
Because those, the average guy in the street gets into politics, and he's either got to join in with the good old boy circle, or he's going to be an outcast.
But that's what needs to change. That's what needs to change. The people need to change.
Well, it's
okay. Well, we are getting close, and Janine wanted to show a couple pictures. Jeryl, I could never thank you enough for making the trip down. I mean,
this was great.
And this year, again, I mean,
thank you so much.
The first time, the 44th anniversary, in memory of one of my very, very dear friends, Roy Howard, who I will miss for the rest of my life. And if everybody could be a man like Roy Howard, what a great world it would be. So, Roy, we love you, and I know you'll be there. And I'm going to do something for you at that show, just for you. And I think it's going to be a good thing. And
the show's going to be terrific. There are so many people coming
out. Bring your good vibe with you when you come. Leave your ego and your tough guy thing at the door. And let's all just show the world.
No. Everybody come in and do whatever the hell you want to do. It's going to be a party. No. The drum circle's getting fixed up. And
Janine, start showing those pictures. Jeryl, I hope that everyone sees us up there on August 16th, 17th, and 18th. And God bless Roy Howard. God bless you.
Thank you, Tom.
I'm so glad that you came, and I'm so glad that we finally got to straighten some facts out about this that no one really knew.
I'll come back anytime.
I thought the letter,
there's so much more.
The letter was from Max was, boy, I mean, you didn't even have to say anything more. So we're gonna go out with a few pictures. So God bless you all. Peace to you all. Blessings. Have a great week. And we'll see you next week. And again, Jeryl, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Anytime.